guess I thought I'd talk just a wee bit maybe about my journey, this yoga's path into here. And is anyone familiar with Talking Heads, the band Talking Heads? Yeah, one of their songs is like, "How did I get here?" So in my yoga journey probably really began in 1998, and I was pregnant with my third child, and was married with 2 children, and we moved to Australia, did an international move, and I was always relatively sort of sporty, and being pregnant I was like, okay, well, what can I do for exercise when I'm pregnant? I'll go to yoga. And back then it wasn't as probably mainstream as what it is now, so yoga was a nice gentle way of exercising, so I went along when I was pregnant, and yeah, it was like, wow, cool, this feels like home, this is really nice. Went to the library and got a tape, remember tapes? A yoga nidra tape, which is a meditation, a guided meditation into deeper states of relaxation, and I used to listen to this tape over and over again. And then the third baby was born, so I had 3 under 3. Yeah, not planned, but the third one wasn't. And it pretty much turned my life into turmoil, because she was born with a chronic life-limiting illness, cystic fibrosis. Yeah, affects the lungs, and pretty serious, and spent a lot of time in hospital, and didn't, at that stage, her life expectancy was only probably sort of late teenager at best, when the medicine wasn't what it is now. So as a 24-year-old mum with 3 little kids, and I had a husband in the Navy, so he was at sea all the time, and no family support, it was pretty traumatic, and a lot of turmoil that sort of went through there. So it was probably about 4 years later that my next opportunity to practice yoga came about again, and that was when she was sort of getting towards kindy in school, and it was like, phew, a gap. I'll head back into yoga, and I got Donna Fahi's book. It was that was really the first time I dived into the yamas and the niyamas, and started living by that, and started to be a little bit of a renunciate, I guess, if you like, to clean out what wasn't useful in my life. And that included my husband. So then there I was with these 3 little kids, and one really sick, and so the next sort of 10, 12 years was a struggling solo period. But so that yoga, stuck with me from then. I knew that wasn't supporting my life. I knew kind of, what. Maybe I didn't know where I needed to go, but I certainly knew where I didn't need to go, and that was, part of that. Obviously, being a solo parent, relatively hard, and I moved back to a small town where my family was, looking for a bit more support, trying to do a little bit of work in the cafe, and thought I'll do some more training. I really wanted to train as a yoga teacher. This is about 2007 by then. But there wasn't anything. There was no yoga teacher training in my area. So I ended up studying sport and recreation, and I went and did a degree in that, which took me 5 years as a working part-time and studying. And it was fabulous, because I got to satisfy my need for adrenaline. I got to do whitewater kayaking and mountain climbing, and got heavily into sport and heavily into running. And running was like my meditation. It was my way of switching off, running off my anger, my grief, my frustration, my loneliness, and so I became like Forrest Gump. And I ran, and I ran, and I ran. And I ran for probably 7 years. Yeah. Interesting that Ryan brought up yesterday about this. I have a lot of Saturn in my horoscope, and it's a 7.5 year cycle, and I found it interesting that these big shifts in my life sort of happen around these 7 year marks. I was married for 7 years, 7 years of running. So I ran a lot. I did a lot of half marathons and marathons, and I processed a lot through the running. It gave me some space in my mind, and I used to get up before the kids got up. So, if they were going to be up at 7 o'clock or whatever, and I was going for a 2-hour run, then I'd get up at 5 o'clock and do my 2-hour run and be back in the house before the kids woke up. And that led to, it was challenging. It was a goal for me. I felt like I was achieving something, even though I was bogged down with all this life. And then I was, still struggling with the cystic fibrosis with my daughter, and went to, Ironman? Yeah. Cystic fibrosis was doing a fundraiser for through the Ironman to raise some funds. So I was like, I'll go down, hold a bucket and get some money. And I was watching these athletes come past, and I was like, I can do that. So having not had a bike and, only really being a runner, I entered then for the next year. It was 12 months away. And I thought, okay, I've got 12 months to train for this Ironman. And so what an Ironman is, it's a 3.8 kilometre swim, and then it's a 180 kilometre bike ride, and then it's a 42k run. And you have 17 hours to do it, otherwise you get pulled off the course. And but I was pretty competitive, and I stuck to the training goal, and I was out. My kids will tell you that I was they think I was horrible to live with because I was either training or eating or recovering. But I went off and I did the Ironman, and I think the same year I did like 3 marathons, and then like Forrest Gump, I was like, I just stopped. I was like, that's enough, that's enough. This is harmful. My body is not going to do well long term with this type of intense exercise. So having stopped that, I guess there became some more space in my life because I wasn't training. So then was the time for me to go and do my yoga teacher training. And the kids were a bit older, so they were sort of teenagers by this stage. The training was in Auckland, which was sort of 2.5 hours away from where I lived, and it was weekend modules. The first year, over the year, 1 weekend a month, and then I went back and did the second year, 1 weekend a month. And my trainer used to use me as a bit of an example because I drive down in my van because I was poor budget solo parent. So I could sleep in my van outside the yoga studio, and I could go and do the teacher trainings. And it was my way of being able to afford to do that. And she'd use me as an example because the other teachers, trainers on the course, they'd be like, can't come today because it's my husband's birthday, or it's my dad's sister's auntie's dog's, whatever excuse they could find, And they'd be like, now she used to come in her van and sleep outside and come to trainings. And so I think through the sport and, through that, I had this disciplined commitment that I could channel into what I was doing. I was sort of quite serious about it. The yoga teacher training, I was thirsty for the knowledge that provided. I went on a number of sort of workshops and trainings, and I started teaching straight away because I already had the sport and the anatomy background, so it enabled me to sort of get in and teach straight away. And I used to go to a few sort of these hippie festivals, thinking maybe that was sort of where I belonged, but most often I didn't feel like I belonged there, and I'd end up just sitting in the van on my own because that's where I sort of felt more comfortable. So I think I exhausted all of that karma. That was good. I got over that. I learned a lot of sort of meditation techniques through the trainings, and probably familiar with Deepak Chopra. Yeah, he had a great app, and I found his meditations, and they were like these 21-day meditations, and that was maybe my first taste of really feeling as well of coming home, because that was a silence, that was a stillness, and it was just so calming. Yeah, it was just what I needed from this crazy, achieving, hectic life that I was sort of living. And so again, my kids are still sort of teenagers at this stage, and they were pretty good. They used to be being a bit weird, and I made a doorknob that I would put outside of the door when I was meditating, and it said, silence please, meditation in progress. So I'd shut my door if I was doing my meditation, and I'd hear my kids that come running down the hallway, Mom! Mom! As kids do. And then I'd see the sign, they'd be like, ugh, and I'd hear them turn around and go, and I'd walk back up the hallway. So I had done this a lot of this meditation, and as I said this morning, I'd kind of got to the point where I really had gone as far as I could go on my own, which was when I was asking, I was praying, I was begging, I was like, universe, I need a teacher to take me to the next level. I think at this stage, I had a lot of sort of failed relationships sort of through that time. It was hard with children as well, and I was hitting a little bit of a low point. And I was like, and the kids by this stage they'd just left home, so they were off to university, about 18, and they'd headed off. And I was like, all right, I'm going to India. So I booked a trip. When I got online, I thought, right, I'm going to India. Did a Vipassana as well, wasn't it? Booked this trip to India, had my month I was going to be there, what's going to fit in, wanted to go to Rishikesh. There's a Kriya Yoga retreat in Rishikesh in that month, maybe I'll go there. So I talked to a couple of my other yoga teacher friends, and they're like, oh, that'll be too intense, so I don't think you should do that. And I was thinking, I better find out what Kriya's about before I go on this retreat. Because it looked intense. You had to wear white, and you had to, it did look to be pretty intense. So, I did. So that was how I went online, and Ryan's, videos popped up, and I did the weekend online meditation, found the Om, knew that was where I needed to be. Rest is history, talk's over. So that was in September 2017, and then I was following everything, listening to everything, and then he'd offered this apprenticeship program, and it was the first year that it had been offered, and I'm like, oh, it's perfect timing, I want to do that, and applied, and I hadn't heard anything, and I was like, I knew I was only taking like 25 people, and I'm like, can't I go in? I'll be patient, I'll be a good yogi, I'll be patient. Still hadn't heard, and it sort of got to sort of Christmas time, and I thought, I don't want to be pushy, but I'm just going to send an email. And I'm like, Ryan, wondering if you got my application, and he was like, yes, you're in. And I must have gone to my junk mail or something, I didn't know, so yeah, anyway, I was doing this little happy dance. So I spent the next couple of years, 2 years, going through the apprenticeship program. It was America, anywhere is a long way from New Zealand. America's a long way from New Zealand, so I wasn't going to go to the retreat the first year. I thought I'll wait to the end of the second year and save and make the journey over, which I did. So that was the end of 2019 that I went to CSA. And I did, I said to Ryan, I'm not coming for the first year, can I stay for 2 weeks? And I'll do both. And he's like, yeah, you can do that. Stay for 2 weeks. So I got to go through 2 initiations, which was really good. And I spent had a few talks with Ryan, and I didn't even really have a lot of questions. I'm kind of a read-write person, so I'm always scribbling out all these notes. And I had all the information, it was there. So the retreat, did the 2 weeks. At one stage when I sat with him, so this is probably 2 years into my Kriya Yoga journey, and he said to me, you'll be a very good teacher, he said. Not a very popular one, but a very good one. And I'm like, well, that's okay, I don't need to be popular. During that retreat, I think I was in the second week, he said to me, would you lead one of the afternoon meditations? And I'm like, yep. Okay, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I'm like, wow, he must really trust me to do a meditation. Or, also he'd had a lot sort of going on in his life, and I thought he had a sore foot and thought probably needed a bit of a break, and And I'm like, well, we must have something really important to do. As I found out, he just wanted to go paddleboarding. But it was neat for me because it was at CSA, and I went in after the Qigong session. I knew I was teaching that afternoon. I was really nervous, and there was Roy's chair, and Ryan had been sitting in it, and I too went up and sat in the chair, and and there was this big gong, on the side at CSA as well, and. Yeah, so enough, and someone said to me, if there's an opportunity to hit a gong, then you should hit the gong. Yeah, but I was a bit too shy, so no one was there. I did a private little hit of the gong. I hit the gong. And then sat in the chair and led the meditation. And then since then, carrying on from the apprenticeship course. Did a bit of service with Ryan. I did a transcript for one of the books that he wrote, Conversations with Roy Eugene Davis. Done a couple of presentations on the online solstice retreats, and a podcast, online meditation. And then, third or fourth year, he's like, okay, I want you to write a commentary on the Yoga Sutras. Chapter 1, part 1. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to work and writing the commentary, translation, commentary, got stuck into it, and was really learned a lot from that. And I said to him, I'm gonna keep going. I've done chapter 1, but I'm going to keep going with this. And in New Zealand, we have 4 terms that make up the calendar year, which works with the school year. So I thought I'll do one chapter, one parta per year, take the year, and do a commentary of the Yoga Sutras, which is what I did. So I think about 4 or 5 years, I probably turned all my passion and fever that I had for running and training and that kind of thing into my spiritual practice. Became a spiritual athlete, if you like. Quite monk-like, a bit of a recluse, in a bit of a bubble. Did the work. That was important. I needed that time. Single, so there wasn't really much else sort of going on. I could really sink my attention into that. Oh, that's right. And when at the initiations, just backtracking a little bit, at the initiations when you put your money into the envelope, and I thought, okay, I'm going to donate all my resources to what I'm going to do here. So I had my currency exchange, my American money, and it was the end. I had like 2 days left in America, and I'm like, all right, here we go. All of my American money, it's coins and everything. I'm going to put everything into the envelope. And then I had a ride to the airport, and I sort of, I knew they'd feed me on the plane. I'm like, I'll just see how this goes. I'm sure I'll get by. Had a few nuts and an apple, Put all of my money into the envelope, which wasn't much. And I made it. I made it home. I remember being in Chicago airport, and after 2 weeks on retreat, I was feeling pretty holy, sort of floating around the airport, if you like, not really thinking I was sort of part of the world. And I did. Someone bought me a coffee, and I made it all the way home and got fed, and it was sort of a little bit of a test, if you like, but I knew the universe had my back, I'd be okay. And I think you learn that through Kriya Yoga as well, that if you're not attached. If you miss a meal, it's no big deal. There'll be another one. It's not. Yeah. Whereas maybe back when I was training, and my diet was so strict, I knew I had to. I was so attached to like the amount of carbs and protein and fat I had to have to make up what I needed. So it was quite liberating to feel that it's not necessary. You'll be okay. I think through the practice, the nirodha, the cessations of these fluctuations in consciousness, they naturally occur as you go down the path and you practice the yamas and niyamas, and they're lessened and they're weakened, and sometimes, like I said this morning, sometimes it's very slow degrees, and other times it's just like, wow. So you sort of become more like, I guess if you're using the analogy again of the ocean and the waves on the ocean, you know, any surfers? Yeah. Surfing? Oh, must be a Southern Hemisphere thing. But, you know, if you're surfing and you're learning and you've got to get out past the big waves to come back in, and it's a struggle, and you're like, got to get over these big waves, and you're paddling, and then you catch a wave, and then you're tossed off, and you're rinsed, and you're submerged, and you're gasping for air, and you pop up, and you know, that you become more like the surfer eventually. You can kind of, or the floating, if you like, you're floating on the surface of these waves rather than being sort of tossed around by life. Yeah, it's a smoother ride. The practice being truly present with life. I think that helps to not be sort of tossed around so much. The waves are still there, but when you're truly present with it, you can step back from it and kind of watch it, and you know, sometimes it's like, ouch, you know, that hurt, you know, but it's like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. and that happened to me as well in some relationships. So I really wanted a successful, sort of happy, healthy relationship, and it wasn't working, and I realized what probably was missing was this first love, because everything else is temporary and transient and not lasting and passing through. So rather than seeking and searching for anything external to fulfill me or, you know, make me happy, then if you can find that centre, that first love, that sat, everything else will be added unto. So I've got a heavy Saturn influence and Jupiter, so you know, that suffering, that endurance, and that sorrow, that's a bit of my karma. It was quite nice to know that there was a reason for it. It wasn't just because I was, you know, something I'd done to deserve it. It was just how it was happening through me. It's just your hand of cards. I think David said the other day, some people have more favourable hands of cards and others less favourable. But then if you reframe that, is it really less favourable if it puts you into something like this? Is not the disasters and the struggles in your life the actual greatest grace possible? So you build this resilience. Rather not have it, really, but I got it. So you deal with the resilience. And which one of the teachers' prayer was thank you? Was it?
That was
Last year. Yeah. Thank you. I think when you can actually learn to say thank you. I think it was Meister Eckhart. So if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, then it will be enough. You know. So. Yeah, thank you for the illnesses, the struggles, the heartache, the pain, the sorrow, the suffering. Thank you, because it's grace. We come to this this path to discover the eternal part of us, and I like to think of the eternal part of us as it's like a constant companion. It's always with you. It's very comforting that you have this constant companion, and if you can hear Om, or what your vibration, or what you imagine Om to be. I think Sri Yukteswar describes it as the voice in the wilderness. You know, it's there, and you can almost reach out and take its hand, which is how I interpret Brahmacharya. Yes, it's moderation in that, but Charya, walking with Brahma, working with Brahma, and if you can reach out and walk with Brahma, hold God's hand, that's really comforting. And I had a realization in one of my meditations.
Excuse me.
That if I'm here, I am holding God's hand, walking with Brahma, and everybody else, when they hear that, is walking with Brahma as well. They're also holding God's hand. And so God's hand are like these rays, and if we're all holding a ray, then it brings us all back to the oneness, back to wholeness. Yeah. One of the yoga sutras that I really like, I like all of them, but one of my yin yoga teachers, actually, he brought it to my attention, Sutra 210, and it's this term pratiprasava, and it means a returning back to your original state. It's a backwards returning. So subtler and residual impressions of the 5 obstacles are overcome or wiped out by withdrawal of the mind back to source, back to unmanifest matter. So this pratiprasava is this constantly returning back to the original state, back to source. Overcoming these, or wiping out, if you're lucky, these sort of more subtle and residual impressions. So the 5 obstacles, we probably know them. The kleshas, avidya, the first one, ignorance of what our true nature really is. Asmita is the I-ness, the identity, the ego. It's another one of the obstacles to overcome. Raga, your attachment, which can be quite a hard one to overcome. We can think of superficial attachments to overcome that, our likes, if you like, and our dislikes. But when it comes to really letting go, hit some of those harder ones, like your family and your children. Can you release your strong attachment to that so that you see everybody's children in the same light and treat everybody in the same light? Dvesha, your aversions, and abhinivesha, the fear of death, which is strong even in the wise, abhinivesha. If you can step back, pratiprasava, enough to be comfortable with death, it's a big one to overcome. I think, was it on the first night I got here, and I was up on the top floor on my own, I think, and Warren said something about being scared about ghosts up there, and I was like, oh well, that's how I go, so be it. But if you can actually get to that point, it's quite liberating, because it gets rid of the fear. People have fears, and fears are real. You've got a fear of flying, a fear of heights, and that. But if that's how I go, then that's how this body goes, and I've got as far as I can in this incarnation, and so be it. If you can make your peace with death, one of the 5 obstacles, to look at, delve into. So we develop this kind of imperturbability, where you're not perturbed. You might be tested, and you will be tested, but you're not derailed. Okay, it's not going to throw you too far off course. And I had this experience on the way to Ireland, actually, and it's a big journey. And I got ready, and the first part of my journey, left at 8 a.m, 2 hours drive to my dad, dropped the dog off. Next 2 hours drive to my mum, picked up something to bring over to my daughter over here. Another hour's drive to my next daughter, who was closest to the airport, and she was going to take me to the airport. Got to the airport, standing in line with my bags. Okay, I'm kind of, this is 12 hours had gone by, I hadn't even got on a plane yet. And my partner had said to me before I left, be prepared because things, happen in travel, and I'm like, I'll be right. Whatever, it is what it is, I didn't expect it to be so intense and so quick. It was my first obstacle. I got to the airport, wouldn't check me in on the plane because I didn't have the right visa to transit through America. And I'm like, and they said, download you'll get an ESTA, download the app, and sometimes they come through straight away and sometimes they don't. And so I downloaded it, and I didn't have much data on my phone either, so I was sitting there with my bag. Everyone else was being checked on the plane. I was meant to go to San Francisco, waiting. Check-in closed, couldn't get on the plane. So I went to the desk and I said, I'm meant to go to Ireland, and they're like, well, we can't check you through until you get this thing. You haven't lost your ticket, but you need to pay the difference, and don't do it until you get the visa. So I had to ring my daughter and say, can you come pick me up? And she came and picked me up, and then I went to my mum's, and she looked at me and she goes, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. Guess I'm just not meant to be on that plane, so be it. Yeah. $1,400, and 2 days later I got on another plane which took me through LA, 7.5 hour transit there, 2 hours in situ. They never even asked me for this visa. Nobody even asked me for it. Got to Ireland and then got on a bus. So there was 12 hours to LA, 7.5 hours there, 10 hours to Ireland, I think. Then got on a bus and then missed the stop I was meant to get off to get to my daughter's. We passed the stop. This is probably getting on to kind of like 42 hours of travelling or something ridiculous. And I went with the bus driver and I'm like, because I told him where I wanted to get off. And I said, it must be coming up soon. He goes, oh, it was back there. I thought you'd already got off. My interpretation of an Irish accent. Anyway, got my suitcase, wheeled it off, across the road to get on another bus back, and I said to the bus driver, I've already paid, I just didn't get off. Oh, you have to pay again. Once you're off, you're off. And that was my breaking point. I got 42 hours and I was just like standing on the bus. And finally got to the stop. My daughter picked me up and she said, are you all right, Mum? And I'm like, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. So these you're going to be detested, but you're not derailed. And even in that first instant when I was sitting in the airport waiting for the visa to come through that didn't come through, and I was sitting there pretty calm, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, trying to break through some of the obstacles. But I'm here. Here I am. Yeah. So these trials happen to all of us in different ways. I can remember thinking, even back when I first came across my guru, Ryan, that it wasn't very old and possibly hadn't had the karma that I had and all the trials and tribulations that had got me to where I needed to be. But I watched in that first year of my apprenticeship his life fall apart, and I watched with so much respect the trust and the faith and the strength that he held through all those tribulations, and that was a real source of strength for me. The trust and the faith in Sanskrit is shraddha is your faith. Because we keep moving back to truth, back to what we eventually can experience as truth, as sat. So the asat, opposite of truth, almost like this pulling away, and sat, the truth. And there's a lovely mantra, Om Masatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mechurma Amritam Gamaya Om. And this mantra is moving us from the unreal, asat, to sat, to the truth, from darkness into light, joy into light. And from death, from the death of ego, your identity, your personality, into immortality, into our eternal self, the constant companion. So we find our truth, we become very authentic with it. Become cool with being uncool. Drop all identity. You know, I had this identity of kind of being a half hippie, half sporty kind of misfit, good yogi or whatever it might be. But that's all limiting. It's all limiting. We find our truth. We accept it. We are okay with it. We find our true voice, whatever our true voice is. You know, on iPhones you have Siri. Siri is your you can talk to Siri, and my partner is even less tech than I am, and that's saying something. You know, so we got this new phone, and I was talking to Siri and told Siri how to set a timer or play a song, and he thought that was wow, they can do that. That's really cool. So I taught him how to do it, and he was trying to get Siri to set a timer. And he'd set it all up, but it wouldn't work. And I'm like, you've got to use your natural voice, your true voice, because he was like, being someone else. It was like, hey Siri, hey Siri, hey Siri. And then I did it, and I'm like, hey Siri. And straight away Siri popped up. I was like, how do you do that? And I'm like, you've just got to be authentic. Use your true voice. Yeah. Being okay with it. I'm that weirdo who goes to a party with a thermos of green tea. It's okay. Yeah. You become really anchored in what you know that is true, not concerned with what others do or don't do. Yeah. So hopefully through all this we're neutralising some of our karma, lessening it, doing our best not to create anymore. Yeah. We have this incredible lineage, teachers, support. Ryan's got this plethora of content available that we can tap into to keep us anchored. It's a very stabilising path. Yeah. So that spiritual shopping can cease. I like to think of the lineage, if we're getting back to that idea of wholeness and oneness. We can use an example of a tree. And within the tree, you've got your branches and your limbs and your leaves and your roots and the lineage, the teachers and the gurus are like the trunks and the main branches, the main limbs are our teachers, and then we're all the leaves and the fruits and the flowers and all the different parts of the tree. Not separate from it, we're still the same. And then through this tree we've got the sap, the life force and the prana that's like, we've got the roots that are coming down, the fungi and the minerals that are being drawn up through the tree that are feeding all the leaves. So we're all part of the same vein. This is flowing through us, and it's another way to think of not being separate, part of oneness. We have all the scriptures to help us, the main ones being the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. There's a scripture for everything. Yeah. If you're at a bit of a loss, open the book, read something, it'll speak to you. Yeah. If you're feeling one way, one of the sutras, we can cultivate the opposite. It's one of the teachers. We can label our obstacles so that we can then get past them. Yeah. Is this ignorance? Is it attachment? Or some of the, is it fantasy or is it memory, or what are these vrittis, these fluctuations? Can I label it? Can I set it aside and not let it be such a big obstacle? we've got a method, we've got a science, so that we can evolve into the best version of ourselves that we can be in this Dwapara yoga. Yeah. It's a dance. it's a dance with life. Ron Lindan would call it a journey of a lifetime. Some of us are good dancers, some of us are not. Some of us have 2 left feet and some of us trip. It's a dance forward and back. And we dance with life. Yeah. We have experience, yoga, enjoyment, not always enjoyment, and liberation from that as we're drawn back to truth. Yeah, and your meditation gives you an opportunity to tap back into that. So when you get, you think you're relatively proficient and you're okay in it, but if you can meditate, a couple of times a day or 3 times a day or shorter bits, and the more you can tap into that, the more you remember that, and the more you can stay there throughout the day and throughout your life and throughout the night. So we learn to abide as a seer. Sutra 1.3, abiding. Tada drashtu svarupe avastanam. Then the seer abides in its own true nature. We can choose our level of intensity that we're going to give. Mild, moderate, intense. We give to our practice. We have a repeated practice. Another sutra. Abhyasa vairagyam tan nirodha. The nirodha, the cessation, will occur through this repeated practice, persistent effort, and letting go, detachment, dispassion. So persistent effort, but then, like we put our fruit into the basket, we're not attached to the fruits of our actions. You can't not act, you have to act, but acting and expressing in the moment, unattached to any fruit, any reward. So you are right where you need to be. This is grace. Right where you need to be. The very first section, Atha Yoganushāsanam, now instruction in yoga begins. Okay? Everything up to now has led you to here, to now. 75% of your karma is gone now, always now. Now is the yoga. Now is when your yoga happens. This moment, this breath. It can help to know that you're already full. You already hold all knowledge in you. Puranamadam, you're already full. If you take fullness away from fullness still remains. You're always full. So we peel away these layers as we move back to our first love. This beautiful moment, again, this breath, this form here in Ireland, how did I get here? Enjoying crack, which I now know is fun. So having crack with this similar flavour of ice cream. We can offer our inhale breath to our exhale breath, and our exhale breath to our inhale breath. Krishnamacharya, I love his way of saying that. He says, you inhale and God approaches you. Hold the breath in and God remains with you. Exhale, you approach God, and hold the breath out and you remain with God. And at the end of our lives, we're going to hold our breath out. There'll be no drawing in, and there we will remain. Yeah. So, I think you want to be steady, consistent, disciplined, but also light and free, not so serious. Yeah. It's easy to be serious. Yeah. Optimistic and grateful that you are who you need to be. And you're probably familiar with the term, for Namaste when you come to the ending of a yoga class, or you're greeting somebody with this Namaste. And the real true meaning of that Namaste is as a soul greeting a soul. So when I say Namaste, it's coming from a place in me that is truth, it's light and it's love and it's free. And when I come from that place in me and you're coming from that place in you, then we are one. Namaste. Namaste.